We need to pour one out for my homies.
That's right.
By homies, I mean my GPU. If you hear a noise in the background,
So when you say GPU, do you mean the GPU in the computer we're using to record the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so Paul noted that he could hear some rattling and some other...
I refer to it as a tinkling.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe even a tick-tocking.
A tick-tocking, yes.
But I can't explain what has happened to this thing between now and yesterday, but I turned it on late afternoon yesterday to do, we'll call it maintenance work. I don't know, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the GPU fans just went to full max. I can't get them to not be at full max. And now one of them is making a very loud tinkling. I don't know. It sounds like Tinkerbell's in there, but she's just with a hammer and not...
Right. So let me relate a story that I think you and everyone else potentially would find really interesting. One thing we've often complained about with personal technology, with Windows, with Skype, with whatever, is that you set things up a certain way and it works fine. And some days it will just work fine. But some days you'll come in, turn things on, and it's not correct. Like in the case of Skype or Teams or something, the microphone will be configured to something else for some reason, or even though no one has ever changed anything. Okay. This is a phenomenon. I don't equate it with Microsoft, but I sort of equate it with computers. And I've joked. I'm joking about this, but like computers are not really computer science. They're magic, because if they were computer science, it's ones and zeros, and if you leave something alone, it's always going to be the same. And we all know that that's not the case.
Right.
So I watch a lot of kind of I guess I'll call them educational videos on YouTube. They span different things that have nothing to do with technology. One of the things I'm really interested in is music. And there's an interview on YouTube that came up because I was listening to other things like this from the engineer who worked on the AC/DC album Back in Black. Now this is in 1980, right? So this is like 40. Yeah, it's exactly 40 years ago, right? So they asked him what was it like recording this album with the band, and he says, "Oh, it was great. They were professionals. They were great. They were really good, and came in every day around 11 or whatever." And we'd work until like 1 o'clock in the morning, like every day. And he said, the thing is, though, I would have to come in around 9, about 2 hours before those guys came in, because there was a mysterious thing going on in the studio, which is true to all studios. It was not unique to the place we recorded this, but he said I would come in, and even though we had left things set a certain way, inexplicably, some things would be set up differently the next morning, and I'd have to go and check everything to make sure it was correct, and then put it back in the correct configuration if it wasn't. So this is there's something from 40, and you've heard about like the Gremlins thing, right? From World War II, pilots used to complain about things going wrong with planes and stuff. Like, I'm telling you, dude, there is something weird about this kind of thing that has been going on since there has been technology, right? But like some caveman was like, dude, do you notice like sometimes like the fire just goes all night, but then sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and it's out. Now we don't know why. like literally, it probably goes back to the beginning of time. Anyway, you need a new GPU.
Yeah. Anyway, so I got to get a new GPU, which a lot of people are going to be like, "Hey, look, there's an event September 1st for the next generation stuff."
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold off to that long. And realistically, I don't think it matters, because just because they announced it September 1st doesn't mean it's a coming September 1st. And I can't wait.
Do you use this computer for other things?
Just our important podcasting.
Yeah, no. No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, obviously, it's essential to your day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just wondering if like it made sense to, like if you gamed on it, or if you.
Oh,
but you
no,
just
I mean, it's
literally just use it for.
It's literally just this. What might have honestly killed it is Teams Day that we did.
Yeah,
because that is surprising. Like this actual
just
process
ran the whole time. Like it must have been
surprisingly impactful on the GPU, and especially when you start streaming. While that is a little bit more CPU intensive, but it was 7 hours of probably around like 60 to 70% usage, just nonstop.
Can you hear that?
I don't know. I can't hear anything other than the rattling. I mean, it sounds like my first car.
Somebody's vacuuming upstairs.
Oh.
Apparently right above my head.
No, I can't hear that. I can hear the sound of Windows 95 booting up, which turned 25, which...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Windows 95 was big for me. I mean, it was not the first book that I wrote, but it was the first, big book, really. Well, Visual Basic was pretty big, I guess. But It was kind of a mainstream thing, and that year was just an explosion of Microsoft betas. Like once we got involved with this, all this other stuff followed. You know, MSN and Plus 95, Office 95.
Mm-hmm.
There were some games too. I'm forgetting a lot of it, but it was a busy time, and that was kind of the beginning of my career. I mean, it probably goes back a year before that, really, but I mean, that's where it all kind of came together for me. Like maybe this is something I could actually just do. Yeah, it was big.
God, I hope everybody can hear the background noise that is going on right now.
Oh, I also hope they can hear the vacuuming, because I think between the two of them, they'll be like, we could see your mouse moving, but all we could hear was whirring and windy sounds, which actually is probably a typical podcast, frankly.
Yeah.
Come to think of it.
Yeah. Anyways, so I don't know. I'm just assuming that this audio is going to work and the whole thing's not just going to crumble down on my life. But yeah. There was the judge ruled, I think, in favor of what we talked about yesterday with Microsoft and the backing of Epic and their Unreal Engine. And the judge is like, yeah, you probably can't do that. But they didn't touch Fortnite, though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I think of it as a split decision. It's a temporary, like I guess we'll call it a preliminary injunction, ahead of a hearing. But it was actually, it's I have to say that the ruling is really well written. It's very complete.
Yeah.
And given the speed at which it happened, I mean, I props to the judge or whoever wrote it. It's really kind of impressive. But I would say that Epic won on 2 points and Apple won on 1. And the one that Apple won on was the thing that I raised as an issue in Epic's second filing, which was for this preliminary injunction, where the problems that it has are of its own creation. It bypassed Apple's rules knowingly, and of course they're going to take it out of the store. To fix this problem, all you have to do is bring it back to the way it was before. That's what Apple's asking for. That's actually reasonable.
I would agree.
The judge said, the judge agreed as well. So Apple won on that count. So Fortnite remains banned from the iOS App Store. However, Epic did win on 2 points. One was that Apple cannot take away its developer license, and Apple can't prevent Unreal Engine or anything else that Epic does from being updated in the store either, which are big concerns for third parties. And the third parties who are innocent in this case of whatever these two companies are fighting about, you can kind of debate the merits in either direction. Companies have decided to use the Epic's Unreal Engine. They're creating mostly games that appear in the iOS App Store. They shouldn't be harmed because these two companies are disagreeing. So, like I said, like a split decision, but there's going to be I think it's September 28th hearing at which there will then be we'll call it a permanent decision, I guess, with regards to their injunctions, because there's a ban on Fortnite and now there is no longer.
This thing is getting louder.
Is it really? Okay.
This is
right. We're going to Thelma and Louise this thing.
Oh, no, it's...
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to hear,
so
and then this whole thing.
You got to fix this immediately then.
So this microphone setup is actually pretty well designed to block audio that is happening on.
No, I know, but it could fail. Like, in other words, you actually need to get a GPU or somehow fix that GPU, right? Like, you can't, it's like you can't just say we're just going to see how long it goes. Like,
No, this is something that I can't ignore. Like, it'll have to get fixed. Now, here's the problem du jour, Mr. Thurrott. If you remember, I've been on the hunt for buying a car, and I still have not purchased a car, and we're not going to buy one until at the earliest next month. I think is kind of what we decided. The problem is that Tuesday is the one day of the week that my wife has to go into work. So I have no vehicular component to actually go out and buy a GPU.
Now, your daughter is in school?
Yeah, she's at school.
Yeah. So, I mean, how far is like a Best Buy or whatever?
It's not far. I mean, it's...
Well, I mean, you could Uber it.
Potentially. Oh, yeah, I could. But problem is there's other things I have to do today. Like, work.
Well, I hope, right. So, I mean, obviously, look, if we miss days of this podcast, I mean, the world would keep revolving around the earth, but the sun.
Yeah.
But you must have other things that are important, I guess, that will need to be recorded.
Yep.
Yeah, so that schedule, whatever.
Yeah, so it's fun. Fun life in the quarantine neighborhood. So, Anyways, we'll end this session of Jingle Bells. We'll catch all of you right back here tomorrow, maybe.
No need to unduly stress the GPU.